Hello, welcome to the show. This is Soul Star Radio. I'm host Jacquelene and we're on A1R Psychic Radio and also Moonstruck TV across the interwebs all over the joint. So you'll find us somewhere, anywhere. I'm joined today at Whittlesea Chinese Medicine Clinic by, of course, our resident doctor, Dr. Anthony Holding. Good morning.
Good morning, Jacqueline, and thank you for coming back to my lovely clinic and having me on the show again.
We're back in fine form. Back consulting here. It's been a while. I've been off around the world, it seems.
You've been a very busy young lady.
Yes.
I follow you on Facebook. I don't do Twitter.
That thing, yeah.
Do you do that?
No, I don't. The bird is not necessarily the word, I find.
Yeah, fair enough. So, yes, I've been following your posts and you've been a very active young lady.
Yes.
Awesome to see.
It's been interesting, I've got to say. The word interesting, I think, defines a lot without having to say anything, if you know what I mean.
Correct.
So today I think what we were going to do is talk a bit about, and as you're a Chinese medicine doctor and also practicing acupuncture and Chinese herbs and all that some wonderful stuff, we're going to talk about relationships and particularly around abuse and around power and control and getting your power back, because a lot of what I sort of see on the feed when people are watching in the show, which I can't see today because the particular equipment they're using to bring the show to you today, but there's a lot of stuff about, will he treat me right? Is he coming back? Usually it is he. Very occasionally you get he or she, but in any case, it's this sort of thing of, is he going to want me? Is he going to accept me? Is he going to give me love? Is he going to come back? And some people actually, of course, are in the category of, well, I don't want him back. Those sorts of things. And I've had a few clients of mine that I of course refer clients across to Dr. Anthony at times because he has those particular skill set that, I feel that client needs. So if they're needing sort of a rebalancing or something like that, and I feel it's going to be more beneficial along the acupuncture line, I'll bring them across to Tony. And if I'm more working for the magical side and using the herbs in my way, which are not internal, they're external, and I'm using them as little custom-made sachets that I fill with herbs and make wonderful smells, and it sort of sends an evocative energy that way. But yeah, when I sort of feel like it's got to be this way, I sort of send them across to you. And so we've had a few sort of people that I've been sending across in sort of a bit of a state of what's been going on a lot with people this year is that lack of empowerment, wanting to get it back. So what sort of themes have you found?
Basically what you've said there, the patients that you referred to me, I see they're disempowered. The beauty of the acupuncture, and particularly my style of acupuncture, is we self-empower, but it means I've got to have my stuff together too.
Yep.
That was one big reason we moved my home-based clinic to a commercial-based clinic, so that there was a distinct line between the two, and I can be a practitioner here and I can be a chef at home. So when I'm here, I go full-on practitioner mode.
Yep.
And the impact of a patient or practitioner is very important. And I even have some, look, I'm not perfect at everything we do. I have some patients say to me, do you feel rather stressed today?
Yes.
That's because 2 hours before the patient was late.
Yep.
Has a knock-on effect. Or the patient I spoke to just found out they had cancer.
Yep.
Or the patient I just spoke to just discovered they lost their baby.
Yep.
That has a real impact on a practitioner.
Yep.
And as practitioners, we need to be in control.
Mm-hmm.
And the beauty of having not a home-based clinic for me is I can actually leave that stuff at home. Yep. I take my coat off as I walk out the door. I put it on as I come in. However, it still resonates. I can be awake at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. 3 and 5 is the grief hour.
Yep.
I can wake up then and think about that.
Yep.
That patient that unfortunately lost a baby. But back to the patients themselves. A recent one was a divorce that happened 18 years ago.
Yeah.
During the inquiry, we found out because he was such a narcissistic control freak, she walked out on him and kicked him out. So he hasn't got over the fact that she took control and pushed him out.
Mm-hmm.
Now he's back at her.
Oh, of course.
And she was all over the place, a very gifted artist, because I always tell my patients to paint, draw, play with ceramics or garden. The reason we go down that road, it takes them out of your thinking brain and into your non-thinking. I love mowing lawns.
Yeah.
We just moved on to a 23-acre property, and the two-thirds of an acre of that is lawn, which I mow with a tiny lawnmower because I live on a small property.
I'm wondering, do you like mow?
I do. I'm really, yes, I'm really pedantic about how we mow the lawn.
Yeah, of course, right.
Maybe it's my inner greenskeeper.
I think that, but it's also a way of creating order,
yes,
in our daily life.
Yes, and it looks fantastic, a freshly mowed lawn. So this patient that you referred to me, lovely lady, she was all out of balance on her right side, which is her male side.
Men. Yep.
She actually complained about the needling on the right side. I said, that's the male. And I actually then quizzed the patient to the particular point. So large intestine 4, which is a point here, it's known as a pain point.
Yep.
So on the right side, being the male side and a pain for a male, you can actually attribute it to him.
Yep.
And next to that is one called heart 7 or Shenman. It's a heart empowering point. But when you get to the heart of a patient, you're actually within their inner circle.
Yeah.
And the people in your inner circle are normally your partner, your children, your parents, your brothers and sisters, and then that circle expands as we go out. So when a patient mentions that the heart 7, left or right, left, female, right, female, is painful, I then quiz them. I said, it's someone within your inner circle who's done something wrong to you.
Yeah.
Now, I can speak about another case of a lady I did that to, and she started crying as I put the point in. And I said, I'm sorry, that shouldn't have hurt. That's a male person in the inner circle, your inner circle, has done something wrong.
Yep.
And she burst into tears and proceeded to tell me that her brother-in-law had been filming her sister and their younger sister in the shower for the past 3 years. They were devastated because he was such a lovely man and the most
you sort of look at them and go, oh, he'd never be like that. No.
So the point of that, explaining that, is we can be quite specific to an event in a patient's life, knowing what the point is. And, of course, it goes further down the body between the big toe and the neck, so liver 3, it's a known stress point. Again, male, female, and it can be just work-related, My boss lady, I answer to a boss and she's very bossy. So my left liver 3 is quite sore. She's not listening to this, I can say that. The Minister of Finance or Minister of War and Peace, call it what you like. So we can be that specific, and by acupuncturing those known points, it rebalances the chi flow through the 12 meridians in the human body, and the patient leaves feeling relieved, lighter, and a bit vague. And the vagueness is just the chi movement.
Yeah, of course.
And on another case, I treated a young lady where her parents separated after 21 years of marriage.
If you could call it that.
If you could call it that. And then she never coped. The second eldest daughter didn't cope with the splitting of her parents, and the father wouldn't speak to her. So every time I needled the right side, she said, that hurts.
Yeah.
Why does it hurt? That's your male side. It's heart 7. It's dad. She burst into tears. She cried for the 30 minutes on the table, which is great.
Yeah.
There's tissue boxes in every room. There's tissue boxes everywhere. I'll sit and cry with you. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Particularly men, they break down. They don't want to break down in front of another male, but they do break, and I'll just sit there with them and sit in that space. I'm not afraid anymore to sit in their space. I used to be.
Yeah.
I had my own issues to deal with. We sorted that out to a degree, but we never stop self-development. So there's no such thing as an end, I've done it all. No. And anyone that tells me that, I go, actually, you haven't, because you're hiding. You've got the main thing. That's right. So this young lady went away. She came back for her follow-up treatment a couple of days ago. I said, how was your week? She said, I spent most of the week crying.
Yep.
I lost my pet rabbit, and I kind of, okay, great. I'm an ex-farmer. I know rabbits are problems. She had a pet one.
Yep.
And she said, I've never cried so much in my life. And I said, you know what was the best thing you did?
Exactly.
Was you were able to let that emotional release come out and just cry. And she goes, I cried uncontrollably for about 3 hours.
Yep.
And I go, great, that's day one. And she continued that crying. She came in yesterday a completely different person.
Yeah. So
we get rid of that deep embedded stress and disorder that sits within the body and then can permeate or can come out years later as other diseases and disorders. Now, as you're aware, this is a bushfire area. Yep. In 2009, we lost 117 people just here, and I still treat bushfire victims. In fact, one young man, 21, still wets the bed.
Yep.
He went through it. He had major loss.
Yep.
We do the PTSD points, post-traumatic stress disorder points on their back. And within minutes of me actually needling those points,
dropped.
They drop and they cry.
Yep.
So the biggest 6 foot, 7 foot tall footballers that I treat that have gone through it, I do the bladder 11 on the back of the neck, which is where we hold grief in the lungs. That's the back shoe point of the lungs. So it releases grief embedded in the body. The PTSD points, and he howls 30 minutes.
Yep.
I take the points off, give him a gentle massage, and then he leaves completely refreshed and goes, thanks, I'll call you when I need another one.
That's right.
The beauty with them now, once you treat them once or twice, is they know when they need to come back.
Yeah.
And secondly, they're not afraid to cry.
Yep.
Which is great. It doesn't make there a sook or anything.
No,
it doesn't bother me.
I think the thing is, you get a lot of this toxic patriarchal way of looking at emotion that's really quite scary, because some men will say, oh, feminism is scary, these women are going to take all this from us and da-da-da. But actually, the patriarchy is very destructive for men, because men need to be able to feel safe to express emotions. And I think if a little boy likes Barbie doll and likes pink glitter, well, let him have the damn Barbie doll and pink glitter, because, it doesn't mean he's going to turn into a weirdo. No. And what is a weirdo anyway? Because,
that's right.
You've got people of, and you look at the ancient cultures, there's 5 genders. And we're not going to get into an argument about how many genders there are and all that sort of thing. But when you think of it, if you allow people to simply have emotions instead of saying, you're a boy, you can't cry. Fight like a girl? Well, you better believe I'm going to fight like a girl. You better watch out. So, when you sort of say, oh, you run like a girl, that's actually really harmful, because women need to be able to be direct. And I used to be very direct in the boardroom, and I didn't think anything of it until I saw other women going, my God, I can't believe you said that. I say, well, why not? And it's because often women get told, you can't say that, you can't do that, you should smile more often. Can't you take a joke, love? And all these sorts of things. And it's really about being able to kind of say, well, no, actually, or particularly, as you say, with men bawling their eyes out on a table, and you being that male practitioner holding that space for them, that is actually really necessary at this point in our history. It's been necessary for a long time, but it's really good at starting to see more of this, more of that feeling-centred, emotional intelligence, which I was talking about last week as well with another practitioner friend of ours. But yeah, it's about holding that space. So it's really, that's where you sort of look at the abuse in society. We actually have to take the load off men having to be macho and hold their feelings in. We need to allow blokes to actually express, I think, because then it's a safer place for women as well. And for there to be a partnership and a teaming in relationship instead of a bloke having to just put up, shut up and be quiet.
Yes.
I think it's kind of not good.
Men are the last to make an appointment with me.
Yeah.
I very hesitantly allow a partner to book their husband or partner in with me without their knowledge.
Yes.
And I have a blanket rule. The answer to that is no.
Yeah.
Purely because I'm only here because my wife said. Mm. So I had a patient similar 2 weeks ago. In fact, he didn't even know why he was here. Mm. She brought him in. He sat over there, didn't want to look at me, took him into the consultation room. I said, how can I help you? He goes, I don't know. I said, sorry. He said, well, I don't know why I'm here. I don't allow +1s in my consultation. I had to go and get the wife and go, sorry, he doesn't know why he's here.
Yeah.
He was very dismissive, non-responsive.
Of course.
He didn't talk to me. He didn't want the acupuncture. He wouldn't take his shoes and socks off. He wasn't interested in it. I pushed him through. I changed my tone. I worked out what element he was. I talked to him as a 5-element practitioner mode to work with his element. After the treatment, he said that was fine. He made another appointment reluctantly. He came back in a week later without his wife.
Yeah.
Shook my hand when he walked in.
Yeah.
And he said, I'd like to apologise to you for my attitude last week. That was huge.
That's massive.
Huge.
And see, that's the thing. If you've got a husband and he's like hard to drag along to anything, which
that's right.
Maybe actually say what you think he needs or what it is instead of sort of lumping it off the practitioner, because it can be really weird from personal experience as well of having some guy rock up and go, wife brought me here.
Yep. And they sit crossed arms.
Very much so.
And they turn away from you.
I would.
Yes.
I would be saying, what the hell is this? You know, like, what do you think you're doing, right? So try and involve him in the decisions. And the thing is, it's like, I think us women often expect you blokes to read our minds. And then you get the blokes who expect the women to read their minds. It's like, well, you should have known. It's like, oh, God. And you just communicate. Sometimes I'll sit there in readings and clients will say to me, but what do you think he feels about me? I'm like, how about you ask him? I think the problem as well is because blokes then feel they shut down, and they're shutting down because maybe they've been prodded a bunch of new times. And so that they don't feel like talking, and then that's where the discussion ends. And it's like it's really important to just keep open to partner. Like if you're bringing the guy along or you're bringing your woman along or however, talk about why, talk about how this might help them. Maybe you'll relax here. That could be great. I mean, that's enough of a reason. And then they can figure out what they're getting out of this when they get here. So you had him come back again?
He's coming in for his third tomorrow.
There you go.
There was a complete and utter shift. He was almost like a different person that turned up for the second appointment.
Yeah.
Like he sat close at the table.
He's bought in now.
Yes. He was, and then when he was under the needles, she turned up and I spoke to her outside.
Mm-hmm.
Not about what we were doing with him, because you're not allowed to do that. I just said, how have you noticed a change? She goes, I've noticed a massive change, and in fact, can you book me in?
Yes.
Because now her highest element of stress was him and not only the children.
Yes.
She has sorted him out, and now it's mum's time to have a go.
Yes.
She's in.
Yes.
So it'll be interesting to see them both come back in.
Absolutely.
But the change was like Laurel and Hardy.
Yeah.
It was a complete and utter flip for him. And I was kind of proud that we were able to get him to do that.
Yeah, get through to him.
Exactly. And that's why I like 5 elements, because we work out their constitutional element, got nothing to do with your star sign or anything to do with that. It's the constitutional element of how you were brought up as a child up to the age of 4. And I work out which one they are. Often there's a few that confuse me. There's some that just fit into the pattern.
Of course.
Like a water element will always be late, and then they go to the toilet.
Yes, of course.
Every time. Yeah. And then they sit there and you've got to talk to them on an intellectual level.
Yes.
And they need to understand everything you're doing.
And what's in it for them.
And what's in it for them before you even move out of the consult room.
Yeah, I find with them, they're like a code you have to crack when you're reading books.
Yes.
Because if you don't get it exactly how they want to hear that particular line, you are out. But if you put it exactly in that way, then they break this smile.
Yes.
And it's like it's tired.
They have a look.
And they do that. And then they open up, they giggle, and then you've got them. And you're like, oh,
once you convince them. But they're always late. So water element, if anyone's late, I write water element straight away.
I find they want to learn. They've forgotten how to use their voice recorder.
Yes.
And they don't want you to figure it out for them, but they end up having to get you to figure it out for them.
Yes.
Even though they've probably been shown how to do it. But they're late. It's the toilet, and it's can you fix my recording device actually now that I'm not too proud to ask?
Yes, and I want the details of that and how it's going to work and how you function before I go into your treatment room.
I actually had that.
Well, hang on a minute. 15 minutes late. I went to the toilet and I've got 3 minutes to get this across.
Yeah, look, I had one of them bring me up, and she and this is my early days before I learned how to sort of, come to the chase really quickly and just you either do one appointment or you don't. How about you go and think about this website thing, go and have a look. And this particular lady rang me up. She started asking me 15,000 questions and doing all that water stuff. And then she says, so I just need to know, like, are you a Pisces? Because I really just need to make sure that we're compatible before I have the reading.
There you go.
And I said, compatible? And she goes, yeah, compatible. And I went, are we dating? Because, I'm not really into girls, but I guess thanks. I guess I'm flattered.
I'm flattered, that's right.
Not really, I mean.
Thanks, but no thanks.
Yeah. I think this call needs to end now. And I could even I could hear it in her tone and everything. I'm like, whoosh, whoosh. And I'm getting the emotion. Then finally she said, you're Pisces. And I'm like, oh, there we go. It's like, there's the ultimate water going on right there.
Mm-hmm. And also with water element people, their opinion is more important than yours.
Oh, yes.
And they will get it across whether you want to know about it or not.
Mm-hmm.
So water sort of permeates in them.
Oh, doesn't it?
I find them the hardest to deal with, used to find them the hardest to deal with, until I understood 5 elements more. And because I'm a fire element, so I know fire and water, right? So now that I know that and I know what happens as a fire element practitioner with a water element patient, I can make modifications to suit them, because it's not about me, it's about the patient. And the other thing with water element is it's more about what they don't say than what they actually do say. I said before, they've got a look about them, and when I see that look, I know they haven't stood a damn word I've said.
Yep.
So I then have to either not dumb it down, because that's not for them. You have to intellectually bring it up.
Mm-hmm.
So I change my terminology and my tone, and then I see them, the ears kind of stand up and going, right, now I'm resonating. Yep. Now you're actually listening to what I'm saying to you. But the other elements are much easier to deal with.
Oh, yeah. And it's like every psychic reader I know with any level of long-term experience in the field like to go, today Libra. Like if you look star signs, right?
Yeah.
And so I actually set my shop up in South Yarra with wonderful pink on the walls and turquoise ceiling and butterflies flying over the ceilings and down part of the walls and glistening bits of glitter here and there, and and so whenever Libra would walk in, or Libra rising particularly, and because we're in the month of Libra, why not go there? They would actually walk through the shop, not purposefully like some of the other signs would, or just getting straight down into the reading room. There we go.
Get lost in it. Yeah.
And then they go,
beautiful.
What a cute little shop you've got. And they'd say, cute little shop, every single one of them. And I go, you're Libra, aren't you? And they go, how did you know? And they go,
I'm sorry.
Must be my job. But actually it's because of the way they reacted to the colours and all this fuzziness that I put in the shop on purpose to sort of make it a little bit like walking into a candy house, only I'm not going to eat them and put them in the oven and like Hansel and Gretel.
So some of the elements wouldn't even see that.
No.
They wouldn't see the pink, and I've been in your place.
Yes,
it's loud.
It's loud.
They wouldn't see the pink. They wouldn't see the purple. They wouldn't see the butterfly.
I know. I know. They just sit there and go, yeah.
Which one's yours? Which shop's yours?
Yeah. I actually had that. People turn up like they're off the other end of the street. Very rare.
Yeah.
And it actually has on the link of where to go to and all that. It's got like, look for the hot pink shop. Like it's hot pink out the front. Just pink cerise, which I'm wearing, of course. And then inside it's like this lovely pastel pink, very nice, almost looks like fairy floss. And it's done that way on purpose.
Yeah.
Because frankly, I couldn't live in that, but I enjoy working in that.
Yeah, that'd be a great environment. Mine's not pink, thankfully. It's quarter strength hogs bristle.
Well, hogs bristle indeed.
Yes.
It's very bristling with hogs, but
very good.
Thankfully not. So the 12 meridians you talked about before, what are they and where are they for those that don't know?
Unfortunately, I don't have my model with me, which would be the best thing to actually show you, but they run around the entire body and they interchange like a highway and they connect at different points. And those connection points, or just even the basic point of a meridian, can get blocked. So there's a particular meridian, spleen 6. It's the interjunction of 3 yin meridians in the feet. So yin
we mean feminine.
Yep. We mean feminine. So one single point can actually unblock 3 meridians.
Yep.
So as I say to my patients, there's 365 meridians and 365 acupuncture points and 12 meridians. And no, that does not mean I'm going to stab you 365 times today. It's minimum needles, maximum results.
Yeah.
So the least amount of needles we use is actually more beneficial than the most amount of needles that a patient practitioner uses. I know one particular myotherapist, she puts 90 needles in a patient's back, 90.
And she has oxygen.
Yes.
In case you pass out.
Because that's what happens, because the body goes into shock because it's been needled too many times. It actually collapses. The chi collapses and the patient faints. And she's known for it.
Yeah.
And as Jacquelene said, she has an oxygen bottle on standby.
Yes.
That's ludicrous.
It shouldn't be illegal.
It should be illegal.
It's kind of scary. I actually got a gift voucher for that person and I sort of went, ching. And you could say, well, Jacquelene, you should have really recycled, reduced, reused and just, gifted that onto someone. But I thought, I think I'd be culpable if I did that.
That's right. Yeah.
So it's really important to choose your practitioner carefully It's been wonderful to talk to you again, Dr. Anthony,
Thank you so
you
much.
can find in Whittlesea Chinese Medicine Clinic.
Just Google me.
Google him, you'll
Yeah,
find
I'm
the
all
guy.
over it. International, mate.
That you certainly are, darling. He treated one of my clients from Japan. In the meantime, we're going to nick off for this week and we'll catch you next week. There'll be a lot more shows tonight on A1R Psychic Radio, and we'll catch you next time. In the meantime, bye, darlings.